A string between stars. The first time Emily saw Leo was under a meteor shower in the desert outside Tucson. She was there with her astronomy club. He was alone, sitting on the hood of a beat-up Jeep, sketching the stars in a leather notebook. "Do you always draw in the dark?" she asked, half teasing, half curious. "Only when the stars demand it," he replied without looking up. That was the beginning. What followed was 6 months of stargazing, midnight hikes, impromptu poetry, and music played on Leo's old harmonica. He believed in the beauty of the universe. Emily believed in patterns and data. Together, they balanced like moonlight on water. They loved without promises, but with a kind of inevitability. It felt like the world had stopped spinning just to give them space. Emily introduced Leo to her favorite constellations. He gave them new stories. "Cassiopeia isn't a queen," he said one night, tracing the W shape with his finger. "She's a scientist, waiting for the answers to a question the universe hasn't asked yet." She laughed. "That's not how mythology works." Maybe it should be. They camped under the stars, shared whispered secrets, and carved their initials into a juniper tree. Leo sketched every night, pages and pages of stars, always with a new interpretation. She watched him fall asleep beside the fire, the orange glow painting warmth into his pale skin. One morning, Emily found a new drawing in Leo's notebook. It was a map of the stars, but not as they appeared in the sky. It was how he saw her, radiant, central, the orbit around which his life revolved. He never showed her that one. She found it by accident. And she kept it, tucked into her own journal. But even stars burn out. Leo became distant. He'd vanish for days, claiming he was chasing a story or searching for rare meteorite fragments. Emily tried to understand. She waited. Then one day, he left without a note, just a voicemail. "Don't look for me. I'll come back when I can. I promise." Weeks passed, then months. Emily buried herself in her research, working on a grant proposal for NASA. But the silence was louder than any rocket launch. She checked his social media, his email, even called hospitals anonymously. Nothing. On the night she was awarded her grant, she looked up at the stars and cried. Not from joy, but because he wasn't there to see her win. She told herself to move on. That maybe Leo was a season, not a lifetime. But the string between stars had already tied itself around her heart. 2 years later, on a rainy Thursday, Leo returned. He stood at her door, drenched and thin, but his eyes still held that constellation light. "I'm sorry," he said. "I had to disappear." Emily didn't know whether to hit him or hold him. "You promised you'd come back." "I didn't know how long I had." He showed her his notebook, new drawings, stars connected in strange, beautiful patterns. Planets that didn't exist, stories that made no sense. "I'm sick," he whispered. "Neurological. The doctors said I might lose my memory, my sense of time, or myself." Emily stared at him. Then she opened the drawer where she kept the drawing, the one where she was the star at the center. "You didn't lose yourself," she said. "You left him right here." Leo moved in again. Some days were good. Some were filled with confusion. He forgot his name once. Another day, he thought Emily was a stranger and locked himself in the bathroom. Still, she stayed. They marked days with stars on the calendar. A good day was a bright star, a hard one a small dot. One night, Leo asked her, If I forget everything, would you still love me? I'll love you enough for both of us, she said. Then came the final drawing. Leo handed it to her just before bed. It showed a figure floating among stars, tethered to a second figure by a single, glowing thread. That's us, he said. If I drift too far, pull me back. She kissed his forehead. I will. One morning, Emily woke to find Leo gone. Not from the bed, from memory. He looked at her with polite confusion. I'm sorry, miss. Are you from the clinic? Her heart broke. But she smiled. No, she said. I'm your star. The one you drew in all those notebooks. He blinked, puzzled. She opened a binder. Hundreds of drawings, each one a breadcrumb trail back to her. Each night, she read him his own stories. She pointed to the sky and told him the myths he had once made up. Slowly, glimmers of recognition returned. Not always, not consistently. But sometimes, he would smile in that old, crooked way and say, Cassiopeia, the scientist. One such night, Emily sat beside Leo under the stars. He reached for her hand, tentative. Do I know you? He asked. You did, she replied, and maybe you will again. Then he looked up at the stars and said quietly, that one looks like home. She followed his gaze. It was just a point of light, but she smiled. It is. Later that night, Leo began humming. A broken melody at first, then a tune Emily hadn't heard in years, his harmonica song, the one he used to play under the desert sky. He didn't seem to know where it came from, but his fingers tapped the rhythm on the edge of the blanket. Emily joined in with the words they once made up together. A lullaby to the stars. Leo paused, eyes closing. That song, it's hers. It's ours, she whispered. And for a heartbeat, she saw the recognition bloom. He looked at her, not through her, not past her, but at her. Emily, he said, almost in disbelief. Yes, she replied, tears already falling. He touched her cheek. I remember. Something. Not all, but enough. The stars blinked above them, quiet witnesses. Maybe it would fade again. Maybe the next morning he would forget. But in that moment, they were both home. Together. They sat like that for a long time, the cold forgotten, the stars spinning above. Leo leaned his head against her shoulder, and she wrapped a blanket tighter around them both. There was no need for more words. Later, back inside, Emily pulled out the old harmonica from a box she kept under the bed. She pressed it into his hand. He stared at it as if it were both familiar and alien. You used to play this for me, she said. He hesitated, then raised it to his lips. A shaky breath, a single note. Then two. The melody came haltingly at first, then smoother, clearer. She closed her eyes, listening, memorizing the sound. The next morning, Leo didn't remember the song, but he remembered the warmth. Day by day, they rebuilt something that wasn't the past, but something new, woven from memory, tenderness, and patience. He wrote new stories in his notebook. Strange ones, yes, but threaded with stars and a woman who always stood at their center. Sometimes, he would say her name for no reason. Sometimes, he would forget it. But the way he looked at her, like gravity itself bent to her, never changed. And every night, no matter how the day had gone, they would step outside and look up at the sky. Leo always pointed to that same bright dot. "That one looks like home," he'd say. Emily would smile. "It is." A string between stars, still holding, and always pulling them back to each other. Later that night, Leo began humming, a broken melody at first, then a tune Emily hadn't heard in years, his harmonica song, the one he used to play under the desert sky. He didn't seem to know where it came from, but his fingers tapped the rhythm on the edge of the blanket. Emily joined in with the words they once made up together, a lullaby to the stars. Leo paused, eyes closing. "That song, it's hers, it's ours," she whispered. And for a heartbeat, she saw the recognition bloom. He looked at her, not through her, not past her, but at her. "Emily," he said, almost in disbelief. "Yes," she replied, tears already falling. He touched her cheek. "I remember. Something. Not all, but enough." The stars blinked above them, quiet witnesses. Maybe it would fade again. Maybe the next morning he would forget. But in that moment, they were both home. Together. She kept the harmonica by the window now. Sometimes the breeze caught it just right, and a single soft note would drift through the house like a memory returning. Years later, Emily stood beneath the stars alone. She lifted the harmonica, played the tune once more, and whispered, "You promised." One star flared a pulse of light in the dark. She smiled, holding the harmonica to her chest as the last note faded into the night. A breeze swept past, gentle and warm, as if the desert itself remembered. Behind her, the observatory dome stood quiet, filled now with children's drawings of constellations and shelves lined with Leo's old notebooks. Emily had donated them all, fragments of his brilliance, so that others might see stars not just as coordinates, but as stories. A young girl once asked her during a school tour, "Did he really forget you?" Emily had knelt beside her and said, "No, not really. Some things stay, even when the mind lets go." She looked up at the stars now, remembering all the nights they'd named them together. The thread between them had never truly broken. Still holding, still shining, still love.